Everyone, Jen here today, and I'm going to show you how to make the new Shabby Holly Stuffie. We call it a stuffie because we obviously are stuffing it, but I'm using it as decoration. So for the new stocking tag in these sample photos, I have it on there with the stocking. You can turn it into bunting or ornaments or really whatever. So if you've made any of the other shabby items that we have, this is all put together similarly. The only difference is we have an applique on the top of the holly to give it a little bit more detail. So what you're going to need is felt. So I am using wool blend felt from Benzie Design. It's my preferred felt for this particular project. You can also use Felty by Sulky. That's also a nice option. And then you're going to want to have some fabric scraps. The applique is small depending on which size you use. So this is a great scrap buster project. You're going to want some twine, optional for whatever you're going to do. We're going to make them into this little decoration here, and some pom-poms. We are going to use tearaway. My preferred tearaway is Tear Easy by Sulky. And then I went ahead and grouped 4 of the holly together on my machine. So we are going to be making 4 at a time. So go ahead and get your files loaded and then hoop up a piece of tearaway and let's get started. Okay, it's a little hard to see because this tearaway is thin, and that's why I like it, especially for this project, because it is a little tricky to get the tearaway out of the smaller ones, and this tearaway rips very easily out. So I went ahead and I grouped 4 holly together, so you can see the barely, and that's even in green surprisingly, but I went ahead and ran the placement lines, which is step 1. So right onto the stabilizer, go ahead and run your placement stitching, and then you're going to take your top piece of felt, and since we're doing 4, I'm going to do 2 colors here. So there's 2 here and 2 here, and the next step is going to give you the placement line for your applique. I find that on tearaway, especially this project, and you're using felt, you don't need to tape the felt into place. But if you feel more comfortable taping it, then by all means go ahead. So you're going to go back to the machine and go ahead and run step 2, which is going to give you the placement line for your applique. So you can see my placement lines are stitched down. This also tacks your felt into place, so it serves 2 purposes. So the next step, you're going to use your scrap fabric, and because I'm making side by side and I have a big enough piece, I'm just going to lay the whole piece of fabric over there, and then this is going to be my choice for there. Again, I don't find I need to tape these into place because it is on the felt and it's pretty sticky. So go ahead and tape if you want, and then you're going to run the next step, step 3, which is going to tack your fabric applique into place, so then we can trim it. All right, our fabric is tacked into place, so now we're going to go ahead and trim it. And honestly, when you're working with projects that you're trimming on batting or felt, I find the easiest scissors to use are these kids blunt tip scissors. They're just cheap kid craft scissors. I buy them by the 100 on Amazon, and I usually give them out at certain classes, especially ones where we're making like in the hoop items like this, because they're sharp enough to cut this fabric, but the edges don't grab the felt or batting, or foam. So if you're doing one of the files that uses the sew-in foam that has like a almost like a net fabric on top of the foam, and your scissors will get caught, and it's pretty frustrating. So that's best to use these. And then 2, this is shabby, so we don't have to have this applique perfectly trimmed. So these aren't going to get, super, super close, but that's great on this project. So we went ahead and trimmed that up. The next step is going to be the decorative, like zigzag around the edge. It doesn't the applique, if you would like to leave it a little longer and have a much more shabby look for your applique, then go ahead. So go ahead and run step 4, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the decorative zigzag is done. So the next step is going to stitch the decorative stitch down the center of the holly. And then I'm going to go ahead and run that step and the next step, which will be the hole opening on the edge of the holly. So that stitch is going to create the space to go ahead and stuff your holly. So go ahead and run both of those steps, and then we'll come back and we'll put the back on. All right, so we have the 2 steps complete. So you can see the decorative stitch down the center of the holly, and then our hole stitching right here. And I did switch the thread color for the outline, but you can switch any of these colors. None of them are together. You can separate them and do what you like. Okay, so you're going to take your 2 back pieces of felt, and you're going to go ahead and secure them to the back side of the hoop. So just make sure all of your stitching is covered. And I use medical tape. Silky also sells a similar embroidery tape. I use theirs too, so this might be theirs. Okay, so make sure those are secure. Then you're going to return your hoop to your machine and run your final step. Okay, so we're all done finished stitching, so we can go ahead and pull these out of the tearaway and then go ahead and remove any of the excess tearaway here. Again, the tearaway can be a little tricky to get out of the inside of these smaller holly. So the better or more, this doesn't even have to be pliable, but just not crinkly sounding, I guess, would be preferred. But it's up to you. I mean, they're not going to be used as actual stuffies. So, okay, so we have our 2 here. I'm going to go ahead and trim around the outside edge, and the seam allowance again is going to be no personal preference. Mine's probably usually about 1/8 to sometimes 1/4, depends on what if I'm using fabric or felt. But it's pretty easy. These scissors that I'm using are Kai serrated scissors. Almost all of my scissors are Kai scissors, but these serrated ones, I'm not sure what it is about them, but they just seem to cut through felt and minky a lot easier having that serrated edge. So that's what I'm using. Okay, we'll get these trimmed out. Once we have these trimmed out, we're going to go ahead and stuff them. And I use just regular polyfill for these. I don't think the silky version is necessary, especially since you're not going to be using them as a actual like stuffed animal. So regular polyfill is fine. We are going to use wool blend pom-poms. So if you have those handy, or any kind of pom-pom, and for the holly berries, and then I'm using a twine to make the little loop piece. Okay, so next up, we're going to stuff them. Okay, so if you want to remove the tearaway, you can, but again, this is not the easiest, so I just am leaving that in there. So we're using polyfill, comes with the useful chopstick in the bag, so you will need that to get your stuffing into the little pointy tips of this holly. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and that's what's nice too about using felt, is that you don't have to get this perfectly stuffed. It's not noticeable at all. Fabric, it might be a little bit. So I just prefer felt. I just like the firmness of it. It looks more finished, in my opinion, for what we're using it for. We're not putting these on sticks and such like we did like the ghosts and the shabby stars and stuff like that. Okay, so you can stuff this as much as you'd like. I'm putting a good bit of stuffing in there. And then you can use fabric glue for this portion, but I much prefer hot glue, which I'm using my Ryobi hot glue gun. And you're gonna go ahead and just take your hot glue gun and run a bead of glue along the edge here. And then close up your hole. If you're using fabric glue, you're going to need to clip this and let it sit a while. So that's why I prefer hot glue, because it is much faster, and you can just hold it for a little bit and it will be good to go. You will need glue for the holly and the loop. So again, the hot glue for me is a better option. So, okay, so our holly is done. Super cute. So we're gonna go ahead and take our pom-poms and make the little clusters of holly berries. So you're gonna go ahead and take your glue gun and put a little dab there and hook the two together. And then I put another little blob here and hook number 3. And this takes a little bit to dry, so I just let it sit. Whoops. Okay, so we're gonna make 2. Because this fabric is kind of not traditional colors, I'm using, like, this is a more coral color pom-pom with the minty blue holly leaves. Okay. So let that sit. Okay, so then you're going to take about 6 inches of twine or fabric or whatever and make a loop here, and then cross over the ends here. And you're going to take your berries and put a glob of glue right in the middle here. And you're going to take your twine or fabric with the loop and glue that down in the center. Again, if you're using regular fabric glue, this is going to take a bit to dry, so that's why I prefer hot glue. And okay, this is the only thing downfall about hot glue is all the spider webs everywhere of glue. So we're going to let that sit a moment and go ahead and do the other one. Okay. It also likes to get caught on my fingernails. So. Okay. All right, once that's done, go ahead and trim. I trim off the excess twine and then, you know, pick off any of this spider webs here. Okay. Then I take my holly, and I like to put a larger one with a smaller one. So this is the 4.5, this is the 4, we have the 3, and we have the, or 3.5 and 3. So I'm going to put the 4.5 and the 3.5 together like this, and then I'm going to put the other 2 together like this. So again, I use hot glue, and I put a little dab of hot glue at the top. If you wanted to make this into a bunting, you could easily just thread some thinner twine on a needle and string it right through your holly and string it up like a banner. So this will hold in place for a little bit. This does take a little bit longer to dry. Okay, so we'll set that one aside. We'll go ahead and do this one here. Just kind of hold it into place. Okay, all right, and then once that is ready to go, I go ahead and I hot glue the berries right on the top. Put a dab of glue and the berries. Okay, so here we have our finished one, and then I again looped it on our tag. So I went right through the loop and then looped this onto the stocking top, and there you have it.